Great. We would begin right about now. I welcome everyone to this session. This is Prembly's Industry Compliance Dialogue in partnership with Africa Technology Radio. It's done quarterly, and this particular session is focused on fraud mitigation and debt recovery. A little background, to this conversation. In May 2024, and I'm just going to point out this one, particular one particular example to the many examples that have happened over the past 6 months in 2024 and over the past years. An African lending startup, Black Cooper, for those who are in the space, you'd most likely know it. If not, you can Google. They shared that they could not recover over 60,000 loans, and these loans were worth about 1 billion naira. And they had disbursed these loans to customers and claimed that customers falsified crucial information like addresses during the KYC, that's know your customer process, allowing them to drop off the radar once they took loans. Now, this webinar would be getting the opinions of experts in the credit and lending, especially the digital lending industry, the loan industry, on how to effectively mitigate fraud in the loans that are given out and the recovery of debts. It will also address compliance in the credit and lending sector as it relates to debt recovery and mitigating fraud. Yes, I am Anthony Ibe, a show host, and I lead the team at Africa Technology Radio. I would introduce my co-host. She's Blessing. She's an experienced electronic fraud analyst with a strong background in the financial services industry, as well as in educational media technology. She is a dedicated advocate for community development, having contributed at various levels from support roles to leadership positions, all focused on creating an enabling environment. Right now, I think there's something I'm missing also here. She leads the team of alert review and regulatory reporting electronic fraud at Fidelity Bank. Welcome, Blessing.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I can hear you clearly. And yes, I can speak.
We have experts here who would be sharing their thoughts around the conversation. First is Dr. Ohio Ojagbase, a first-class financial AI and debt collector, as the current CEO of Crino Holdings, which is a leading business and financial security company. He leads Africa's first trained team of private investigators. Now, Crino Holdings LLC provides a range of high-quality services, including asset protection, asset recovery, debt recovery, cybersecurity, counter-fraud investigation, research, education, forensic investigations, and consulting for financial institutions, and for maritime, energy and gas sectors, construction, African governments. Dr. Ohio has developed innovative solutions for tackling complex debt recovery issues and establishing himself as an expert in the field. He would be sharing proven strategies for fraud mitigation in this session and debt recovery, drawing from his extensive experience. Thank you. We also have Mr. Okpeyemi Victor Oshuni, a seasoned professional with over 12 years of experience in the Nigerian financial services sector, specializing in credit and risk management, portfolio management, sales and marketing, and client relationship management. He's currently the head of risk management at Fast Credit Nigeria. Prior to this, he served as the head of credit at Evolve Credit and Casafina Credit, managing significant portfolios and leading credit and sales. Mr. Okpeyemi Oshuni, welcome.
Yeah, it's my pleasure being here. Thank you.
And finally, we have E. Adegboye. He's Prembly's COO and co-founder, and he'll be sharing his expertise in fraud mitigation and debt recovery based on his experience as an in-house AML and compliance expert at Prembly. Hi, Ni. Good to have you here too.
Hey, hi, Anthony. Nice to meet you and other panelists. It's nice being here with you and looking forward to a very good conversation.
Beautiful. Now, before we begin, talking and chatting, what have been some major highlights in the loan provider ecosystem say within the last 1 to 3 years?
Okay, thank you very much, Tony, for the question. In the last 1 to 3 years, you would have seen that the industry witnessed tremendous increase in digital loan provisioning process, wherein a lot of lending platforms are all over the place. A lot of products and services and several fintech companies coming upstream to ensure that we're able to bring financial inclusion down to the communities that have been underbanked or underserved. We have also, as this increase of lending platforms have seen go on the high side, we also witnessed tremendous increase in non-performing loans. It goes side by side, with non-performing loans, and a lot of alternative credit scoring models have been generated as a result of post-COVID situations where people also come into the space and they need to adopt several digital means to evaluate and reevaluate would-be customers on their lending platform. So by and large, that is what we have probably witnessed in summary within the last 1 to 3 years.
Okay. To pick it up from where Dr. stopped, I think regulatory development also has increased in the last 2 to 3, 4, 5 years, especially if you look at countries like Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt. Specifically speaking about Nigeria, the Startup Act of year 2022 came into place, which actually creates a regulatory framework that support the growth of fintech in Nigeria. And you see that a lot of just like Doctor said, a lot of companies are started up or they are growing fintechs. Everybody is going to fintech in Nigeria now because of that Startup Act. And that act alone, it offers incentives, tax reliefs, and support for startups. So by and large, we have seen increase in fintechs. Again, just like Doctor has earlier stated, financial inclusion is increasing. So everybody is coming to the space to lend because we are all hiding under the financial inclusion. We're trying to reach the unbanked. We're trying to reach to the poor of the poorest and all that. So the sector is growing, but bad loan, like you said, NPL is increasing. So let me stop here so that maybe you would also add 1 or 2 things.
Right. I think for me, I'll speak more on the capital and also the ease in which loan is being given. I know before, if you want to get loans, always from the big banks, right? But if you look at the processes that banks have put in place, I think it creates a lot of obstacles, right? And then what you found out is people are now creating an innovative way to ensure that the journey that's going to take you like 5 days, right, to get a loan approval can be shortened down into like 3 days, right? Shortening that into like 5 minutes, right, as it is in terms of onboarding, and in terms of the back office thing that can be done, shutting it down to like a whole 1 day, provided all the minimum data is being met. And if you also look at it from the funding point of view, I think a lot of fintechs have raised capital, right, especially debt funding, to be able to push this innovative strategy. So it means, yes, and as much as we see the need, we're trying to optimize the process, right, to reduce the time you get the loan, and also the capital is there, right? But again, I'll say there's a lot that is basically happening in the loan industry, right, as it is in terms of improvement and what the result, right, of we trying to pump money, right, into the loan business. Because what I would like it or not, credit is here and is here to stay, as it is.
It's here to stay. Do you think that the money is being pumped into, that this particular ecosystem, this space is paying off positively? You said it is here to stay. I'm guessing you mean that, in the long run, it would really make an impact.
Yeah, so I would say if you look at it, compared to maybe the developed countries, we're making progress, right? And unfortunately, we're more cash driven, right, than credit, right? And then even though we know that credit has a place, as it is, everybody cannot have cash at that particular time. There are different reasons why people take credit, from personal needs to like business needs, right? If I'm just going to summarize into that, and the need will continue to be there, as it is. Now, to answer you, are we seeing that positive ROI, right? I would say it's a gradual thing. It's not exponential yet, right? As it is. But I'm sure if you do it properly, right, you might not be able to get 100%. But we've seen that even though some companies will report high number of non-performing loans, you still see some companies, right, trying to mitigate it, right, and have a very decent number. And I use the word decent, right, as it is. So it's something it's something that, for me, I would say yes, we're in it, but we're not there yet. And until we figure out how to basically de-risk, right, non-performing loan, we won't be able to get there and get enough ROI. But a lot of innovative things are popping up from everywhere, right, as it is, to be able to ensure that we de-risk the non-performing loan, right, and be able to have a good return. But I'll allow Doctor to comment because it looks like he has something to add.
Okay.
Well, actually, I think that capital is good. No doubt. A lot of investment is pumping into that sector, and with the excitement comes laxity in the enterprise risk management framework. With capital comes the joy of I've come to become. I'm going to be one of the big boys in the society, playing in the financial services space, and people throw caution to the wind, throw corporate governance to the wind, throw internal control to the wind, throw a lot of things, prudential guidelines to the winds, and bring us to a place of massive non-performing loans. So yes, capital is becoming more. Capital is pumping this. That's one reason you are seeing banks increasing their capital base. If there is no money in the financial services space, there will be interested investors really to buy into those shares. I'm one of them. So that space is a massive, huge, has massive potential for massive growth if we buy it. Putting all the framework in place, control in place, our personal appetite for wealth, and to become big boys in the society. You will put them in place, because I can tell you series of fintechs that have gone under which our well over 50 billion. So it's that bad in the sector. So we need to address some of these issues right here and there to allow players that are coming in, new entrants that are coming into the space, have enough opportunities to really play it well and do it right. That's what I have to say.
Thank you very much. And here I was going crazy about just 1 billion, where you just mentioned it, running around 50 billion. But Mr. Okweyemi, what are the major challenges for the players in the ecosystem to recover these debts? And if you can share this as it applies to the different markets on the continent, that would really be good. What are these major challenges that are being faced in the recovery of debts?
Well, to start with, I think is the weak legal framework and the enforcement. So just I'm sure that Dr. Ohio would speak better to this. Recovering debts in Nigeria as a case study and Africa at large, it's kind of difficult because the court tends to be compassionate to the debtor. They kind to have flair to the debtor than the creditor. So as an institution, if I take you to the court, now the legal process can take eternity. There are delays, the recovery process is poor, and the laws are inconsistent. However, the law tends to look at the borrower as, I just want to oppress the borrower. So for instance, if I take you to court now that you owe me 1 billion or 100 million or 20,000 naira, whichever case, the court tends to have a soft spot for you. Now, mitigation, what can lenders do about that? Ensure you carry out due diligence before lending to that borrower so that you don't need to drag yourself to the court. If you do your due diligence, your credit assessment is top notch, you have good underwriters, you have good credit scoring, and you dot all your I's and cross your T's by having good credit assessment before you disburse. Then you have reduced that issue of going to court in the first instance. Again, operational challenges. So the operational cost of debt recoveries can be high depending on the means you are adopting. Now, in remote areas, again, so our context is around Africa, but again, it's better if you play it down to where we are, then speak generally to the continent at large. In most of the other deserved area, where the only means of communication of reaching this customer is by phone call. There is no email, there is no access, there is no platform where these borrowers can communicate with the borrowers. That becomes a challenge. It becomes an issue. So cost of recovery would definitely increase. This would go up. What is the way forward? Invest in technology. Create mobile platform for debt tracking and repayment. So these borrowers, they have multiple ways of repaying their loan, not just by transfer. They could have card tokenization. There could be direct debit mandate on their accounts. They can walk into any branch and make payment. They can do transfer from their phones. So create multiple means of payment. That way, you are reducing cost of reaching out to them again. So for instance, if a payment are done on monthly basis, somebody needs to remind them or put a call through or send an email reminder and all that. And another major challenge is the economy instability, which is key. If there is no capacity, if I don't have capacity, you cannot get money, even though I have the willingness. Oh, I'm owing Anthony, I wish to pay, but now I don't have the capacity to pay. And what had happened to my capacity? Economy instability. So there are many challenges, but again, these are kind of key. If the economy is volatile, inflation, currency devaluation is happening all around Africa, and because of that, borrowers tend to lose their ability to pay, which we call capacity, and that will lead to widespread default that is even difficult for the borrower, for the lender to manage. So, let me stop there.
Dr. Ojiagbasi, would you want to lend your voice also? Maybe mention some things that maybe Mr. Okoyemi has not mentioned already.
Well, I will say indeed that you will definitely go into bad debt from the point of credit administration, where you begin the loan documentation, loan analytical process, or the process of the granting of your loans. If you get it wrong place, a point of view, you definitely get a bad credit at the end of the day. And for KYC, because the eyes that borrow is not the eye that pays back. Let us be very clear about that. At the point of borrowing, a lot of stress adopted by customers. I've been there. I also raised credit for organized structured loan for organized. But customers will always come with the mindset of being real and ability. They have this, they have that. But no. Most times the bankers will end up being weak, and they are spending money, deserve the money. So the eye that has borrowed that money, when it's time to pay back, you see a different human being. It's like a two-phase customer process. And until we separate those dual personality disorder that most customers operates by, we will keep on having the issue of bad loan recovery. And another aspect to amplify from what I said earlier on is the fact that when you look at the Failed Banks Act, the Failed Bank Decree that was established under the former head of state, Ministry of State, that provides framework to have special court tribunal to try, not going to the regular civil court or federal executive court. There will be this special offense for certain offenses. We have tribunal for those kind of things to avert having failed banks, because we have had four cases of failed banks in this country, Nigeria, until we begin to establish certain measures to avert us having the fifth phase of having failed banks or failed financial businesses in this country. We must ensure that this act, the Failed Banks Recovery Decree of number 8 of 1994, is brought and amended and a lot of framework, and every local government, every state, every region must have that kind of special tribunal purposely for financial related fraud or matters. That's all I have to say for now.
Okay, really interesting takes. Nee, do you think that the current regulatory environment in Africa, supports or hinders debt recovery efforts by these loan companies or by, companies in the lending and credit space?
Okay, I think I'll speak based off my knowledge, right? As it is, I think it's a mix, right? And I'm just looking at it from the impact point of view, right? And also looking at what is common to us, right? As it is, and I'll do a quick comparison. So, credit, we're not really driven by credit, right? In this part of the country, compared to developed market. You know that for you to, for example, buy a house in the US or anywhere, you need to have as high as £400,000, right? Do you have that lump sum? In Nigeria, for example, I can take 80 million or 120 million and go and buy a house, right? So credit system is not something. But just looking at the framework, I think that the framework has tried as much as possible to relate to what is obtainable in this jurisdiction, right? As it is. But I think there's still some deficiencies, right? As it is, which is for someone who's taking loan for the first time, if this person defaults, right? What actually happens? You can drag my guarantor. The highest thing that will either happen is maybe you take me to court, and if I prove that I'm unable to pay, right, then what happens, right? As it is. So I feel it is a mix. It's not perfect, right? In one way, but the other way is still trying to mitigate some things. So there's a room for improvement. And in as much as I think our economy is not 100% yet driven by credit, right? There's going to be that loopholes, right, for people who are smart to basically just take advantage of. I know I was having a discussion with a particular agency on how can we come in terms of debt recovery, right? Because one of the patterns that we identified before is, okay, if you want to give out loan, you want to know how you're going to pay back, right? So sometimes they say plug your card and I will tokenize your card, right? And every month we're going to be debiting that card. But believe me, a common Nigerian, I have about 3 to 4 banks, and I know for sure that the one I'm going to give you is the one that money will never enter, right? As it is. And so you keep trying and trying, and nothing is going to happen. Now, there's a global standing instruction, right? that is actually in place, and the global standing instruction is supposed to allow you to debit any account in as much as you have the legal basis. But again, I can tell you that a typical Nigerian can afford not to use his or her bank account for the next 1 year, and it will still be all right, because he can always find a way to collect cash, right? Whether you like it or not from someone. So there's still the implication of, even if I don't repay my loan, right, what is going to happen. And if we're going to look at it, I think we should address the issue based off different levels, right? If you look at the overbanked, right, what are their characteristics? If you look at the underbanked, right, what's the characteristics, right? And from this, we'll be able to form a very good policy that's going to address whichever one. So I think the policy is still there, but it still needs a lot of adjustment as it is.
Thank you very much. Dr. Ojagbase, can you share some of the effective debt recovery strategies that have been successful in your experience, maybe in also a high-risk, environments? Just some of those debt recovery strategies that you've used that have proven successful.
Well, you just want me to divulge some of my trade secrets of
Yes,
what
of
I've
course.
been adopting over time, and our 13th year of helping the industry in this aspect of debt recovery, especially for the overbanked organizations, banks in the country. First off, what is the purpose of going after the debtors? The aim is not to lock them up in any prison or take them to court. We avoid taking any customer to court. We have that at the point of our back of our mind to understand that customers, yes, at their bad times, but as professionals, also treat them as customers of the bank, and we should also know that we should still lead them on in manners that would not demoralize or bring their integrity or their personality down. So we settled that from the beginning of our loan recovery process. So what we do at first is to analyze the reader's case on case basis. We don't generalize every debt recovery process the same way. No debt recovery is the same, and we do not adopt the same strategy to recover debts. Once we analyze the debts, the strategic team will go together what it is before understanding of that particular. Our understanding of that particular, we have the knowledge of what we can do to bring them back. So first off, we wish to have the first meeting with the debtors, and most often than not, all these debtors, their lines, they no longer use their lines, like what the CEO said. Debtors will always follow up accessing cash. I can give you several cases in points whereby these same creditors, these same debtors are still in business using their proxy to run their businesses. Using their proxy, either the spouses, the wife or the men, or their twin brothers or their siblings or trusted friends to run their transaction. These are cases. I'm not telling you what is online. This is practical reality of what we are facing. So we do that to them. Once we can track them, once we can get their direct access, we go into tracking. We have to track the number to get them to have an engagement with the debt recovery company. And this process always takes time. It's only a debtor that you can see, that you can talk to recover the money. So to these overbanked customers, overbanked banks, they do not even have access to these debtors no more. They can't reach them, they can't do anything. So it's our job to track them with our specialized tracking system. That's why you need to invest in technology in the recovery process. We cannot do without technology. We cannot do without triangulating on the digital, on the telecom mast space to triangulate their location and either geolocation, and just to get to find where they are, bring them to the table, discuss with them. We tell them that we are not killing them. But of course, we know that in order to keep this debt out of the bad side of the banks, we'll find a way to get them to give us collateral. Provide an asset to get your loan out of being bad. Particularly what we do differently is also ensure that we are not only after just debt collection, we also look at debt restructuring, debt reorganization, debt management through the process to get the customer to be able to pay. And once we do this, we ease the tension on the customer and the bank to ensure that we become the warehousing company, to be able to filter up the process. So the banks are with us, the debtors are with us. We manage both parties as the mediator of first resort to ensure that both parties are well taken care of. And the bottom line is that the stolen funds or the diverted funds are restored back to the original account for which it was taken out from. So leveraging on technology, leveraging on specialized tools that we adopt, leveraging on several things that will make sure that the debtors come to bear. And we have been fairly successful in this, and that has given us more edge to come into the process and to get the customer back doing business again, because the customer must be back doing business. I understand the volatility of the economy. That's not an excuse. That's not an excuse. Like in the case of COVID-19, that's not an excuse. You must be in business to pay back because those money belongs to some shareholders and investors. So once you have an understanding of that, we do not blame the economy. We don't blame volatility. You must plan for eventualities in business. And if you have not done that, you will pay at some point. And other means to apply force and pressure will be there, because we have our call center that will keep on being on your neck. We have our surveillance team that will keep on being part of you. We are thorns in your flesh. You will never rest until that loan is paid back. After all, the Bible says it is a righteous thing with God to recompense tribulation to the troublers of our souls. So if you trouble the souls of the management and the board of directors of a bank or a fintech, you will also know that you will not rest.
I feel like no, let me not share what I feel like. So this is good, and yes, it's really important that we get that culture. We have that culture of knowing that we should, not to run away or find ways to defraud, these, the loan companies, lending, those in lending and credit, because it's affecting someone else, right? It's directly affecting someone else. I have my co-host here with me, and I will do a short introduction of my co-host, and she would continue the remaining half of this discussion. But then there are two questions for Mr. Opeyemi and me. The things you think of in terms of risk assessment, right? That's for Mr. Opeyemi, and for me, the importance of regulatory compliance. How important is regulatory compliance in conducting these risk assessments, and the consequences of non-compliance for businesses that are operating in the loan industry. So welcome again, everyone, to those who are just joining us to this industry compliance conversation on fraud mitigation and debt recovery. We have Dr. Ohayo Ojeagbase, Opeyemi Osuni, and Ni Adegoye on this conversation. We've been talking mainly about debt recovery, and Blessing would lead us through, I think, the fraud end of the conversation, fraud mitigation. But then there's a question I left for Ni and for Opeyemi.
Okay, so I think your question centers around what are the things one needs to look out for, the risk management process when before giving out facility. And I think it's basically, the first is assessing credit worthiness. Can this customer repay this loan if we actually lend to this customer, either SME loan, micro loan, lease finance, asset finance, deduction from source, whatever sort of loan it is, because ascertain credit worthiness, capacity to repay the loan. When that is done, then the next thing is proper loan monitoring and reporting. And maybe before I talk about that, what loan management system do you have? LMS, loan management software or system. What LMS do you have? At a glance, are you able to determine your performing loan? Just like the state balance sheet is a snapshot of what your business looks like. The same thing, your LMS should be able to give you a snap, like a summary of what your business is on each day. So if you look at you have an LMS that you are using, are you able to determine the repayments that are due today? Are you able to determine past due obligations? Are you able to determine the number of loans that are disbursed the other particular week? Are you able to determine the number of loans in buckets? 30 days they performing, 31 to 60, the one watch list. Are you able to classify your loans at a glance? You just log into your system, maybe your risk analyst, your risk manager, or even your recovery or collection officer. Are they able to do that? So that talks about monitoring and reporting. Then follow-up, communication. Are you able to reach these customers in the course of the loan? And that's why doctor spoke about communication, telephone, their phone number. Are you able to send them an SMS, a reminder towards their repayment? Because this risks you are managing, yes, you have identified that credit risk is inevitable in lending business. But credit risk is that the risk of default, which is inevitable, but you are just trying to manage it, to reduce it to the minimum level, so that you are not throwing away shareholders' fund. Of course, you will lend, but again, you don't want to throw these funds into the wind. So, are you able to reach them either by SMS, by phone call, by email? So, communication, and this has to be proactively done. Companies set up, this is even done automated in most companies now, especially in the fintech sector. 7 days to the repayment date, you get an SMS. 3 days to the repayment, you get an SMS. 1 day, so your payment is tomorrow. A day to that, you get a voice call, a voice note, or a machine put a call through to you. I'm calling from Fast Credit. Just want to remind you that tomorrow is your payment. Kindly wonder. So, reaching out to them proactively, that's also important. That's a way to manage the risk. Another area is that even when then you should have multiple payment options. Customers should be able to repay your loan via multiple means. You must not just be it has to be a cash pickup. If it's not cash pickup, customer cannot pay. Then when that customer is not in Lagos, the customer has traveled to Ekiti State for a burial, how do you recover? How do you get that payment? So multiple means of channels of payment is also important. Then another thing is your reporting. So you know that these borrowers, they take loans across different banks. And by reporting, I'm talking about regulatory reports, standard reports that either they want to submit to CBN, they want to submit to credit bureaus. If you are not reporting your loans as at when due, you are not also helping the next lender that these borrowers are going through. And in risk management, we try to see where can you cover yourself. And by reporting your loans, so if I'm owing, let's say, Mr. Neyi's company now, and I went ahead to Dr. Oyo's company to apply for a loan, and I say, oh no, you are owing Mr. Neyi's company. First, go and get a letter of non-deference from Mr. Neyi. That means my hands are tied. If I still want to get that loan, I need to go back to Mr. Neyi's bank and pay the loan. So reporting also is very, very important. And most lenders, again, maybe because the lenders will keep sending you a message that it's mandatory, there are punitive action, but again, nothing is being done. You have to report your loans for 3 months now. The worst to keep getting is an email or a phone call. So it's important we report our loans. And what comes to mind again when you about managing, then the collection team. You should have a good collection team, because collection is key. If you don't have a good collection team, the sales officer, the loan officers, they keep selling. They just keep selling. But you must have a good collection team. And when things now go out of hand, please don't hesitate to reach out to external debt recovery, where Dr. Oyo actually comes in. Don't hesitate. If you have done everything in-house and this loan is proving difficult, you can't do anything, please hand it over at a cost to external recovery agent, and you will be fine.
Okay, so before I answer that, which please you help me to recall, just to add a point to what Mr. Premier said, I think the major thing is determining who you want to give loan to, right? And also your recovery, right? I think those are the two major problems that we're facing in the loan industry. And once you're able to profile people, right, using data, and there are different ways in which data can play in. We have data from credit bureau, those are one, bank statement analysis, but I think there's still some other alternative data, right, that we can actually leverage on. And you need to be able to use technology, right, to be able to profile this individual. And I'll say data don't lie. You can just decide to find a way around it, right? Where you feel, okay, this person sits in maybe mid or low or high, right? And you just want to take the risk. But if you have accurate data, I think that also helps. And in terms of the collection, I think technology can also play a bit, right? In terms of collection. There's something that we're going to launch very soon, which basically just addresses these two major problem, helping you to make informed decision. And the second one is at least doing the first part of collection, right? In as much as the person has a BVN, right, and the BVN is linked to an account, we can actually help you to do the first leg of collection before you now push to the hard way, right? As it is. Now, to just answer mine, which is the place of regulatory compliance, right? In terms of for loan industry, and what are those things in terms of maybe penalties, right? If someone defaults, I think policies are basically to just help us, right, operate properly. And policy can actually come from an hindsight or from a predictive point of view, right, to just guide people on how you need to basically operate. Now, I think the honest truth is, for you to be compliant is actually expensive, right? And that is why you see people try as much as possible to do part compliance and not full compliance, right, as it is. If you have to do a proper risk analysis, right, you need to get data. So that means you need to collect data from credit bureau, you need to collect data from telco, you need to collect data from this. At the end of the day, you have to trade something, right, before you're able to get this data. And I think everybody at some point will always want to be cost cautious, right? I don't want to spend so much, right, before even acquiring this customer. So you want to bring your cost of acquisition really, really minimal. So as it is, everybody is trying to just find a way of, can I do A and manage B, right, as it is. But I think the first thing is to just encourage everybody, right, to ensure that don't do part compliance, do the full compliance, right? Yeah, the policy might have some deficiency, right, as it is, but at least starting point is to ensure that what is the policy saying, right, and try as much as possible to basically follow it. In terms of the other one, which is how, if you're not compliant, right, what are the penalties? So one of the biggest problems that regulators are also facing, to be honest, is how can they monitor effectively if someone is actually 100% compliant or not. Central bank today has a lot of policy, right? AML, KYC, and stuff like that. And every day you see people still trying to just breach those things, right, as it is. But I think the major thing is, even CBN is also trying to, and I'm using this to find a proper way, right, on how to ensure that even this company A is 100% compliant without necessarily waiting for you to submit anything to them, right? So if there's a way in which all these things can be done for the regulators, I think it's going to give them insight into patterns, right? Because when people are not doing things, it's not because they just don't want to do it. There's a reason for you not to do it. So again, data is going to basically speak. And once data speaks, you're able to find a way in which you can create a solution to that. Yes, there are also penalties, right, as it says, because in as much as there's a deficiency somewhere, it can be as a result of deliberate action, or you're just incapacitated to basically do that, right, as it is. So there also needs to be a place where if you're not compliant with this, then these are the penalties, as it is. And let's stay strong, basically, on these things. policy will always come, right? As technology basically evolves, right? Everybody will always say policy always catches up with technology, right? As it is. So once there's a new technology in place, believe me, there are 1 million people who have already know how to use that technology for the good, and also those that are looking for the loophole to also defraud, right? Or use that loophole to just carry out fraudulent activities. So there's need to be a lot of R&D, right? That also needs to come in, and policy just needs to also be realistic. I'll say this: it has to be realistic. There are a lot of recommendations from different international organizations, right? There are recommendations, and those recommendations were taken, right? Look at it on country by country basis or jurisdiction by jurisdiction basis, and from there come up with a particular framework that's going to work for your own organization or country as it is. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that helps, and that explains that to the question. So once again, good afternoon, everyone. Next question I'll be asking is basically surrounding fraud in loan recovery. We know that in as much as compliance is pushed, we have different policies that we have that work to make this possible. Fraud is something that is intentional. Fraudsters are intentional in the activities. They come, they can have all documents, plan to be compliant, and also meet orders. So my question would be, how significant is the impact of fraud on loan portfolios? How exactly do you manage fraud? Because you can have customers who are coming with KYC documents that seem legit. You're complying with all the credit checks you need to check on everything you need to do. But we have people who do all these things with the intention to defraud. So I think anyone can answer this. Coming from being a private investigator, being the head of risks, and being a co-founder of a business, how do you tackle risks in your different areas?
Yeah, all right. So when you talk about fraud management, I think one thing that is key is documentation, because again, these customers comes, they make this application, they submit the application with some requisite documents. So, and by documentation, it's these documents these customers are providing, are they falsified? Are they DS? Are they not impersonating? Again, I've seen instances that people use other people's identity to apply for facility, and it flies, and it's in the course of repayment that you get to find out that, oh, we lent to a wrong person. So you apply for a loan with Anthony's documents, and when we are disbursing, we disburse, the loan was actually disbursed into your account. So documentation is key. Ensure that you have the right document and the right person. That's key. Also, you are so funny enough, lending. So before we started this call, we said losses, bad loan, not repay, whatever, starts from the assessment stage before you disburse the loan. That's when you actually even know whether this loan will go bad or not. So if you are not careful at this during your assessment or your loan review, the application review, if you miss anything significant, you're unable to identify or spot that particular risk. So if there's a risk of diversion and you're unable to identify it, and you lend to that person blindly, a fraud is inevitable, because the money will be diverted to another business or another cause, and the person is not able to pay, and after a while the loan goes bad and it becomes a loss. So assessment is key. I keep shouting assessment. You must be thorough with your assessment, and if you're able to do that, you're able to prevent some fraudulent activity. Then furthermore, your collection process. And I kind of discourage, except you are maybe group lending or this very cash pickup. You know, we still have some lenders that's the model they operate with. Of course, every business have their own lending model. However, try to avoid cash transactions between your account officers and the borrowers. It actually saves you a lot of headache. There will not be cash suppression. There will not be, they won't just, your money is secure. So mode of collection, it's also very important. So reduce cash interaction between the borrower and your institution. That way, you're able to reduce your exposure to some unnecessary fraudulent activity.
Okay, so Dr. Ayo, before you go hiatus, because I want you to answer that next. As a private investigator, you get to find out secrets that people do not want to be found out. What would you say in terms of fraud and debt recovery has been one significant future or something significant that you've seen that across boards?
Please come again with the question.
So we have fraud and we have debt recovery. We have different aspects of investigation that you get to do. What has been something you've seen that's irrespective of the amount, irrespective of the rates, irrespective of where they're coming from or the social standing? This is something that is very clear and people need to know that, oh, this is a red flag most likely when you're giving out loans or when you're carrying out business to mitigate fraud.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I answer the question, we need to understand what fraud is. According to the Black's Law Dictionary, the Black's Law Dictionary defines fraud as an intentional perversion of truth for the purpose of inducing another to rely upon what you have just, the lie or the truth in quote you have just sold to them, to rely upon that truth to part away with some valuable belonging or asset. In the case now is the bank, the part with investors or depositors' funds. So when you understand that customers will always sell a lie, sell an idea, sell a proposal, put together documentations that will always bogus truths, bogus figures. This is the best ROI, return on investment, give us profitability analysis. Being ex-bankers, we understand credit. The pressure of trying to meet targets is also on the lenders or the bankers now in this case. The pressure to meet targets and the pressure is coming from their superior. Regardless of the pressure that any banker is facing, it's not for you to throw compliance and the statutory regulatory framework to the wind. Yes, you have not reached the stage of where you can bend the rules without breaking it. When it comes to compliance, you can bend the rules without breaking it. It's a whole new of to train people on how to bend rules and don't break it and still maintain some risk management to mitigate against processes. So customers will always come to tell you bogus ideas. For example, now I'm currently working on two clients that I'm structuring credit for, worth over 5 billion. Now, in structuring those two customers' facilities, I know one of them is not meeting statutory requirement. I am obligated to tell the bank, don't give this to my customer yet until they meet this condition, and this conditions. So if we as consultants or we as lenders or we that are bringing customers to the bank, because for every customer, or every banker who is a credit analyst, their job is to represent the bank before the customers and the customer before the bank. So you have to manage that process and not be emotionally attached, because the things we have found out over the years is that the lenders, the credit officers are emotionally attached to these customers, female to male. So there is this connection that will make the lenders to go to the credit analysts to begin to remove logic and start playing on emotions. And every customer knows how to go by to capitalize on your weakness of your emotions. So it has seen some of loans going back, both for the microfinance banks level. I've been there. I have customers in my finance houses too. I have customers capitalizing on lenders in this regard, that management to sweep in to recover some of those loans at whatever cost it is, because they played on the lenders' analyst intelligence of emotion. So those people will tell you a lie, give you fictitious promises, and those things will go back. The other points I will put in our investigation aspect is the fact that lenders are actually going back to the branch manager banks, acting as if they are the consultant these costs. You are not consulting. You have no right to demanding for interest or success fee. So when you demand for success fee and you give out a 1 billion naira line to a customer and the customer pays you 5%, that is 50 million, for example. Now, if the customer pays you your success fee, that road is already good at going bad. And these cases are all everywhere without data. About 20% of those credit will go back from the get-go because the customer is seeing you that you are already taking money upfront. So there is insider abuse that has resulted in loans going bad, and that is fraud from both the lenders and the customers themselves partnering to defraud their banks. So those are some of the investigation we find out that emotional weaknesses will play their role. The people who are lending money begin to ask for funds that I can avail you this loan. And that's the actual reality of life in the market space, because these things, when we discover them, we will write to the management of the banks, write to the board of the banks. They turn down our request, thinking that we are trying to look for popularity. We are not looking for popularity in Crino Holdings, not at all. Because we go undercover and play a PI role as if we are part of them to guide out how they are thinking. Because until you put yourself on the same shoes that the customers are, to think like them, you will not be able to understand what they are trying to play when they come with you with documents. Because there will only be documents involved. Those documents are always lies. So whether you use AI or not, you still need to use your sixth sense. That's your guts, that your sense must be there to be able to say, no, this person would definitely default. Like I keep saying, people have dual personalities in credits, and when it comes to borrowing loan, it's that. And that's why we have a lot of them behind bars, or not all of our anti-graft agencies. So those investigations and many others that I have not mentioned right now are facts that we must consider when granting out loans, because there is a connivance between outsiders, customers, and the lenders themselves.
Thank you very much, sir. I think one particular thing you said that actually resonates with me is there's something we say in fraud management. They say to catch a fraudster, you have to think like a fraudster. So to get somebody who wants to defraud you, you have to think like them. And it also supports what Opemi said, because you can be compliant, you can have all your documentations, but somebody who is intentionally trying to defraud you would bring the most clean. If it's too clean, it's definitely not clean. If it's too neat, if it's looking too good, it's definitely not good. So that is a very important point that we should definitely pick up from this. So moving forward, I think we're very much behind time. My next question would be surrounding, we've seen how risk plays an important role in credit management. We've seen how fraud and anti-money laundering is. What is now the future? We've seen the problems. We've noticed all the different things that have been spoken about today. What can we say? What do we foresee the future of trend of debt recovery and basically providing facilities to people is going to be, with the whole fraud, with the technology we have, with the data protection laws that we have and all that? What do we see as the future of debt recovery? Let's start with me as a co-founder, as an owner of a business, as somebody who says this. What are your thoughts on this? Is technology taking the lead? Is compliance being what everybody should focus on? Is a marriage of security and data protection what most businesses should look out for now?
Well, I think fraud is something that is a very big thing, right? And as we say, if you look at data back to back, it even looks like fraud is becoming, maybe I'll call it an institution, right? And the money that is being, whatever gone through fraud keeps increasing, I think, year by year. And technology is also evolving year by year. Policies are being changed year by year, right? As it is. But again, I think it still sits on, because humans are the one committing fraud. It's not machines that are committing fraud. One, it's human that is actually coming up with technologies, right? And at the same time, it's human that is forming this policy. So everything sits on human. So understanding human behavior, right, is very very fundamental. Yes, technology is going to play a part, right, as it is in at least giving pointers on how to mitigate fraud and everything. And there's no fraud solution system, right, that doesn't still have a part of. Oh, sorry, I think someone is sharing screen.
Yes. Okay, beautiful.
Oh,
you can.
Okay. All right. So, as I was saying, whether we use AI, right, or we use machine learning, or we use a rule-based system for fraud prevention, there's still a bit of human part, right, that basically comes in. This AI, these algorithms and everything is just going to help you to predict, right, fraud before happening. Unfortunately, some might happen, right, for the machine to actually learn, right, as it is. But humans, you cannot always be there 24/7, right? But narrowing down to basically loan fraud as it is, I believe the first thing is to still ensure that one is a combination of human effort, right, and technology effort, right? And when I mean human effort, I mean looking at what the requirement is from compliance point of view, right? Ensuring that yes, we are fully compliant in terms of what's it called, regulatory requirement, and you use technology where technology is supposed to basically fit in, right? That's going to complement human effort, right? To ensure that, okay, even if you can bring fraud down to zero, you're able to bring it down from, let's say, 20% to at least about 1%, right? As it is. So it's a combination, as I would say. The way forward is not going to be just focused on technology alone, right? And say technology is going to continue to take everybody's job. I think there's still that effort that needs to come in, both from human, also from technology, to be able to ensure that we mitigate, right, and reduce fraud, right, as it is. That's will be my own contribution.
Thank you very much. If I got anything, it was basically we should try to find a balance with technology, with security, with compliance, with changing policies, and every action that we do. We can use so many zeros and ones for artificial intelligence, machine learning, but then the human factor is still very important, especially in fraud prevention and mitigations for businesses. So, Opeyemi, I think my question would be in terms of risks, we're rounding up, and strategies to look forward to and strategies to employ for businesses. What would you say in terms of transference? Because I know most times when we talk about insurance, people are like, so I just dash people my money. I just give people money. If nothing happens, I lose that. What would be your advice, especially in terms of debt recovery and businesses that are in the loan portfolios and having that? What would you say is a strategy or an advice you can give for in that section?
I think it's just probably so. What I've done in time past is to look at this debt recovery businesses, look at their traction, their past record. Again, so when you are giving out these buckets of loan, these buckets of not performing loan, when you are outsourcing them, the right word, when you're outsourcing them, it comes at a cost as high as 10%, 15% of whatever that is collected, that is recovered. So it's to look at their traction, their past record. Can other lenders testify to their performance? Then again, how professional are they? Now, bear in mind that these borrowers that are not performing, they are your customers. If you send in quotes a debt recovery that hire killers after them, they will tarnish your brand. They will tarnish your brand name. They will go on social media and tarnish your brand. So how professional are they? And again, just look at how their past record, their past performance, and how professional are they. That's key, so that again, you're not trying to recover your money and That way, you're actually losing business, because again, if your goodwill, if you lost your goodwill, you're unable to recover your money again. And that way, you're going to be out of business. So that's my take.
Thank you very much on that. Reputation is still very, very important for businesses, and management of that is something that should also be considered in terms of risk management. All right. Thank you very much. I don't know if you have any questions from our attendees or any question prior to now. Anthony?
So I have one question from Oluwafisayo Aluko. The question says, the current recovery framework may not adequately address the issues of borrowers shifting the cost of loan default onto financial institutions. This is exacerbated by consumer protection regulations. A review of these policies is necessary. I know that Nee mentioned something about regulations, and I think everyone has mentioned something about regulations while we're talking. So anyone who wants to respond to this is fine. And then after the response, we'll take the second question. Or should I just take the second question now? I should, right? Okay, so second question. Oluwafisayo to Aluko says it's important we put debtors into different risk buckets to know the recovery methods that can be adopted. And I know we've talked about recovery methods too on the call, so anyone can respond to it.
Yeah, like I said, thank you for asking the question. No two recovery is the same. Like I said during the course of my presentation, of course you always put them the same way you have commercial, wholesale, little across industry and across sector, or across the amount of money involved, or across industry. So you must put them into different compartments and treat them individually. Now, like I said, for our strategies, it's not about collecting the money, because give or take some time, these customers or debtors don't have cash with them. And there's nothing you can do to get the cash. So you have to adopt many strategies to get them on board. Secondly, we always tell the bank, how do you want this customer? Do you still want a going concern customer, or you want to kill off the relationship? If you want to kill off the relationship, we will treat it based on that. You will put it into writing. If you want to sustain the relationship, so we have many arguments from the point of onboarding or engagement. When you engage us, you want to keep the relationship, we will handle it. If you want this relationship to just go sour, we will handle it. Because most people that are taking this loan, some of customers' attitude will determine how you respond to them. If you are coming with peace way of settling these cases, we will handle it on a peaceful way of settling this thing. If you are coming with force, we will also apply force to let you know that whatever you are giving, we are capacity to give you back, and double also. But by and large, the end result all the time is all about how do we recover your cash, and to ensure that facility is taken off from bad loan to a performing loan, from non-performing to a performing loan, and at least get the customer to be breather, to keep on breathing, to do business. So it's beyond just debt collection alone, debt recovery. It's all about debt re-engineering, debt restructuring, debt management, debt administration. You do all these things in one. And if you are not trained in the capacity to do these things, you will have an issue. Now, one other thing I will also advise in recovery, which the CEO made mention of in terms of machine learning, both for employees of organization and for customers, you need to put them through psychosomatic tests. Let them go through some tests, artificial machine learning alone from their own. When they finish answering, facing their laptops by themselves, and they answer the question, the answers will come to you automatically. It's not going to go with them. You don't have to be there. They will analyze the data, and we have already partnered with Israeli companies who are into Mossad and general military and intelligence in the Israeli parliament to really make sure that we develop a robust 98 that can detect over 155 emotions. This machine can detect even the emotions you are not thinking about. You can detect all these things, and you need to evaluate them both, because anyone is capable of fraud. Anyone. Both employees, management, board members, and customers, they're capable of fraud. So you need to have a robust system that will help you plan all these things. The cost might be there, but it's better to have the cost now at the beginning than having the cost of recovery given to us at the end. Either which way, we are fine by it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think we're rounding off already, so we'll be going into final words. But before we do that, I'll just say, Anthony, you started the section prior to me joining. What has been your, should I say, salient points that you've gotten and you've received from this? What's that
Okay.
point that stood out for you there?
Yeah. Thank
So
you
that we
very
can
much.
learn from you.
Thank you very much. I've been here for over 30 minutes. This is almost an hour. No, yes, more than an hour actually. We're going to an hour 30 minutes now.
30 minutes.
And I've heard from Dr. Ohio, from Mr. Fayemi and Mr. Nee. I think what would stand out for me would be the standout statements would be first, this is a space that is growing and it would not stop growing on the continent, right? The credits, lending, the loan, it will not stop growing. And there are a lot of opportunities in the space. That's one, first. The second is compliance is central. Like, compliance is central. You cannot sacrifice compliance on the altar of anything else. It's central if you're going to be in this business. If you're going to, be here, it's sacrosanct. And the third is technology really would help everybody to get to where we're headed. Tech would help everybody get to where we're headed. Whether you're on the compliance end, whether you're on the company end, whether you're still borrowing, right? I'm not just speaking to those that are on the call primarily, and we're on the end of we're at that end where we're giving loans, or we're in at the company, or those helping the companies. Everyone, tech will take us to where we are supposed to get to. There are some extra questions. I don't know if we should take them. Should we?
Let me just attend to the anonymous attendee. So on the JAPA trend, what you can do is, you analyst, to be careful when looking at the bank statement. There are some words you need to look out for. So probably you see visa renew, you see visa payment. There are some words you need to just look out for. And when you see them, that will prompt you to ask more questions, and you may be able, except the customer now provided another bank statement that, again, that's where fraud, like doctor said, the intention, it's not when it's even happening, the intention. So I think that's what you can do. Let your analyst watch out when looking at the bank statement. There are keywords. So you look at anything like visa payment, you look at deposit, you look at tuition, you just randomly search those words on the bank statement, and if you can find that, then you probe further. And if not, again, we are not magicians. As risk analysts, you cannot spot everything, but again, if you are careful, you are able to get some. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So to also add another word that you can also look for, you see agency, fee, payments. So those are also things you can also have in your search, just to add to what Mr. Kwame said. So for me, I think we have another question. In your view, what is the best way to recover uncollateralized loans known as cash gifts? You're already here, so you can help take that already.
Is that for me? Or
Yes,
for
please.
this is
the
fact that it is cash gifts. I think that makes it a bit complicated, right? Because most of the loans that are here, especially for fintech, they are almost uncollateralized loans, right? Because it's like, don't worry, if bank says go and bring your grandmother's birth certificate, we don't need that one, right? Just give us your bank statement, and then we will do. And I think that has also created a lot of a lot of non-performing loans, right? As it is, because in as much as I'm not losing anything, and maybe the only thing I need to lose is, in quotes, you will call me a debtor, right? I think it's only for those that knows. If you don't know, you don't know. So it's I don't lose anything. But I think the best way for recovery is still, I think there are in stages, and that's what doctor is trying to like explain, right? If it's not gotten to the point where we discover that this person is a notorious fraudster, right, then we'll apply first, right? Because there are several reasons. It could be that the person that you did a good assessment of and falls in the bucket of a low risk, right, happens for one way or the other. Either the person that's just loses her job, right, as it is in this kind of economy, and maybe the person who is the guarantor also is not that buoyant, right, as it is. There are systemic way in which you just need to basically assess the situation. But we found out that this person is just basically jumping from here and there, then it's something that you now need to look at to what area or to what bucket does this person fit, right? And I was mentioning something earlier where we're trying to come up with a collection system when, as much as this person has a BVN, right, and is linked to a bank account or a wallet system, we'll be able to debit that account, right? So it's no more a situation of you're giving us an account that you deliberately know that it's not going to work, except you decide that you're not going to use banking again. So in as much as you want to stay off of banking, right, then maybe we cannot help. And at that time, we'll push you to doctor, right? That's going to ensure that by force, by fire, whether as a fire on this planet Earth, you will pay the money, right? But I would say in terms of collection, it's still going to basically be a combination of different things, right? That I've just mentioned. That you use technology, right, to just help you. You use human, right, and you use enforcement, right, to basically just get it. But the part that is labeled as cash gifts, I'm not clear on that. So maybe someone else will take it.
Maybe the person has to explain what they mean by cash gift. You take the loan to give it as a cash gift to somebody else. You have to explain.
Or individual just giving cash gifts.
Or maybe the person or maybe the person used credit card to buy to buy Valentine rose for someone, right? Whatever you use the money for,
right.
In as much as it's coming from you, right? I think you just have to pay it.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I think that answers that. Before we go to round up, do you have any passing word for us? I think this is where we get to end. Any words for us before we go to Dr. Harold and Okoyemi, then just round us off.
Okay, I think the most important thing so comes down to the entry point, which is perform a proper risk analysis, right? Before proceeding to the next stage, right? And if you've found the way that currently you have a high non-performing loan, right, and you need a debt recovery service, I think there are options, right, that you can use as it is. I'll also say you should infuse technology, right, into whatever you're doing. There are a lot of technology, from risk assessment to risk scoring to risk analysis to disbursement and collection. There's also fraud prevention tools, right, that you can actually leverage on, that just helps you to determine different patterns, right, of individual. Because just as doctor was saying, people have dual identity, right? There's the one that you can see, which I would say is the regular identity, and then there's the behavioral identity, right, kind of a thing. I think technology is going to that side now, where you can basically at least tell the behavioral identity, right, of someone, and most of it would, I'll say, if not 100% accurate, it's going to be at least 95% accurate, and the remaining 5% needs human intervention, right, kind of a thing. So ensure that risk is done properly, ensure you use technology, right, where you need to use technology, and don't be shy, right, to involve debt recovery management organization to help you, right, in doing so. They are experts in it, and they'll definitely help you to protect your reputation, if that's the word. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Really do appreciate that. Dr. Iho.
Yeah, I would like to say this thing here. It has never been done before, and I think it will be a novel idea if it is adopted. I just want to drop something that will make everyone to start thinking around when it comes to lending to the teaming companies. The same way you have collateral managers that manage banks in the oil and gas sector, when you want to buy petroleum products, you warehouse it in the depot, the tank farm owner, and get a collateral company, a warehousing agent or a collateral company to manage those stocks on behalf of the banks that is funding the project, as a way of minimizing diversion of funds. The same way when it comes to big ticket lending, not just the retail lending, at our stage we deal with wholesale lending or wholesale recovery. So you have to have a form of, they are provided you probably collateralize these collateralize that, ensure you go a step further to have a warehousing agent to sit on the board, because key man risk is a situation in this space. Key man risk. The one man, when the company is all about one man as the alpha and omega, is an issue that will really cause a lot of havoc at the end of the day, because you are lending to one man, and the one man having personality, having some schizophrenic issues is up there, and let's have a third party that the bank can adopt at our micro level of lending, so that they can also monitor, have an eye on the facility beyond just give the facility and you go to bed expecting that 30 days time or 3 months time the person will pay. No. You must, either you have a third party partner that will work with you from beginning of the loan facility, like for example, you work with Dr. Ohio or criminal organization from the point of giving facility, so that we will become your eye. We become your eyes in those transactions that you are giving out. Otherwise, develop your team members in continuous learning to spot some things and become like an HRO partner to be on those companies' system to ensure that there is effective monitoring of that, how they utilize those funds. It's very important. And for debt recovery aspect, we will continue to leverage on technology at the point of recovery or at the point of assessing and evaluating customers. Before any fintech or lender give any facility, let them go through psychosocial risk assessment to evaluate that person. The eye that borrows is not the eye that pays back, please. It's all different ballgame. And I pray that as we work together in collaboration, we were able to achieve a well-reduced non-performing loans in the industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Femi.
So I think on a final note, I would just want to say data plays a crucial role in assessing risk. And I'm sure that Niyi has laid emphasis on that, while Doctor has also laid emphasis on the recovery portfolio. And when he's saying they keep an eye on the loan for you, that's portfolio monitoring, which is key. If you have a portfolio and it's not being properly monitored, then bad loan is inevitable. So data adoption or the usage of data, then good portfolio, good assessments and good portfolio monitoring. I think if institutions have these three things and they're able to marry them together, then you're able to also manage your NPL and even portfolio at risk, and you have a healthy portfolio. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much once again for joining and being here. And all contributions have been wonderful, has really thrown more light on different aspects of loan recovery, debt recovery, fraud, and anti-money laundering in the credit providing business. So for me here, I know I joined late, but I've been able to make so many points here that has helped throw my light. Coming from a financial institution, working particularly in the fraud and business risk analysis, it becomes very imperative for a synergy to happen. An industry or an institution cannot work alone. We have the risks, we have the fraud team, we have so many ideas or so many different terms. So for a takeaway point I would want to say here is that let's all remember synergy in terms of units within a particular business, in terms of industries. You cannot see the bank working alone. Even when you have recoveries, loan recoveries, you would have, there will be time to interact with the banks coming from the credit facilities. You provide credit facilities, you would interact with banks, you interact with regulatory bodies, you interact with law enforcement agencies. So synergy is very, very important in whatever you're doing or in whatever aspects you're doing. So while you're being compliant, while you're ensuring that your assessment is going fine, remember that you can't have BVNs watch listed, or you can't have recovery from other banks, organizations, others being executed without synergy, without having a handshake with many other different people. So as much as possible, have that synergy. Make sure that you don't stand in isolation. You can give out loans when it's time to get this non-performing loans recovered. You will see that, oh, you need people. Your business doesn't stand alone. Thank you once again, everyone, for joining. And this has been a wonderful section. Anthony, my co-host, I don't know if you have any other thing to join or add before we wrap this section up.
I want to say thank you to you. Thank you very much. Despite the issues we had, at the beginning, like you kept on and we're here. Thank you very much, for agreeing to co-host with me. It's been wonderful. Thank you also to Bayemi, Ni, and Dr. Ohio. Thank you to the participants that have contributed, those that were making comments and giving the thumbs up and clapping while the panelists were dropping gems, and those who have also asked questions. You can connect with the panelists here, Dr. Ohio, Ni, Okpeyemi, on LinkedIn, and you can also connect with both of us, Blessing and myself, on LinkedIn too. Yes, thank you very much, everyone. This is a quarterly session, right? We've had how many now? This is the third quarter, right? Am I correct? Third quarter. Oh, beautiful. So we'll most likely have the final session in October, because everyone usually like packs their bags from November, December, and it's already feeling like they've ended the year, November, December. I don't want to be involved in that. So we'll most likely have the last session in October, and I hope that we keep our eyes glued to Prembly's platforms and Africa Tech Radio's platforms. Thank you also to Prembly and Africa Tech Radio for putting this together. This dialogue is really important, and I've seen the feedback from the participants, and even us here, coming together. We've said the synergy is really important. I hope that we can build from here, moving on business relationships, anything that ensures that the industry, the sector that we play in, continues to be, better. If it's better, then it's really good and better for all of us too. Thank you very much. Let's smile. We're going to have like a picture. Let's smile. Have like our best smile. Okay. And yes. Beautiful. Thank you very much again, everyone. Thank you. This is the end of our session. See you again in October. Blessing.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.